Agile Circus, The 12 Dysfunctions of an Agile in Name-Only Team, Phil Akinwale. A note before the curtain rises. I have trained thousands of project professionals across government, defense, corporate boardrooms, and every awkward-shaped conference room in between. I have sat with teams that spent 3 days arguing about the definition of done. I have watched a product owner and a scrum master conduct a cold war, using nothing but passive-aggressive sticky notes. I have seen a daily scrum last 51 minutes. 51 minutes! At some point during those 51 minutes, someone ordered lunch. This book is a business fable. The characters are fictional. The dysfunctions, however, are entirely, embarrassingly, painfully real. If you read these pages and think, "That's our team," please know you are not alone, and please also consider sending me a thank you note. The team at EM Solutions Incorporated officially went agile last year. They have the Scrum board, they have the ceremonies, they even have an Elmo doll, which, by Chapter 5, will make complete sense. What they do not have is the mindset. They have adopted the costume without reading the character description. When I was brought in to train them, the first question out of Brett's mouth was, "Is this going to take long?" The second question, from a gentleman wearing a PMIA-CP badge on his lanyard, was, "So is Agile basically just Scrum?" Friends, we had work to do. This book follows 12 dysfunctions. 12 ways a real team can say all the right words while doing all the wrong things. Each chapter opens with the chaos, lands on something learned, and hopefully makes you laugh hard enough that the lesson sticks. The Agile Manifesto is not complicated. 4 values, 12 principles. The problem is never the document. The problem is the people who nodded along in the training session and then walked back to their desks and kept doing exactly what they were doing before. Agile is not a meeting structure. It is not a board. It is not a badge you hang around your neck. It is a mindset, and a mindset requires behavior change. And behavior change, as any parent, therapist, or long-suffering Scrum Master will tell you, is the hardest thing in the world to get right. Welcome to the circus. Phil Akinwale, OPM3, PMP, registered. Trainer, coach, recovering optimist. The cast of characters, in no particular order of dysfunction. Brett, product owner, self-appointed emperor. Brett owns the backlog. He is acutely aware of this. He will remind you often at volume. Brett is the kind of manager who prints his own title on his coffee mug and turns it to face outward in meetings. He is not evil. He is simply a man who confused authority over priorities with authority over people, and nobody stopped him early enough. Dina, Scrum Master, immovable object. Dina is 5'3" and has the energy of a lighthouse, quiet, fixed, and impossible to ignore when the weather turns. She does not raise her voice. She does not need to. When Dina folds her arms and says, "We are going to inspect that," grown men have been known to update their resumes. Henry, Senior Developer, Human Vacuum. Henry is extraordinarily talented. Henry is also the man who will eat half the pizza before you have taken your coat off, grab the cleanest stories in the backlog before anyone else has finished reading them, and then explain with complete sincerity that he is just being efficient. Henry is not malicious. Henry has simply never seriously considered that other people exist. Shri, developer, process evangelist. Shri has a template for everything, including, at last count, a template for creating new templates. She is brilliant, precise, and deeply, genuinely committed to process excellence. The Agile Manifesto's first value, individuals and interactions over processes and tools, is something Shri respects enormously in theory and has never quite applied in practice. Vlad, developer, chaos correspondent. Vlad is clever, charming, and slightly too entertained by urgency. His natural mode is, everything is a fire alarm, and when real fire alarms are unavailable, he will create the conditions for one. Barry, the VP, has noticed this and considers it a strategic asset. Dominic, developer, temporal anomaly. Dominic's Daily Scrum updates have been known to reference events from 2019. He speaks the way some rivers move, broadly, without a clear destination, covering enormous amounts of ground while appearing to stay in roughly the same place. The team bought an Elmo doll specifically for Dominic. This was not originally meant as an insult. Now it is slightly an insult. Dominic has decided to take it as a compliment. Paula, developer, professional co-pilot. Paula believes in pair programming with a fervor that one might describe as spiritual. She is at her brilliant best when working alongside another human being. She is at her complete worst when asked to work alone, which triggers a kind of polite, persistent paralysis that she manages by asking if anyone wants to pair. The answer, increasingly, is a silence that speaks volumes. Julia, developer, professional meeting attendee. Julia's favorite phrase is, "Since we're all here." She has turned sprint reviews into backlog sessions, retrospectives into policy workshops, and one particularly legendary Daily Scrum into something the team now refers to only as the incident. Julia does not believe in wasted time. She compensates for this by wasting everyone else's time very, very efficiently. Zane, the customer, agent of chaos. Zane is not a villain. Zane is an anxious man with anxious stakeholders and an inbox that reads like a list of contradictions. He changes direction mid-sprint, not because he enjoys watching the team suffer, but because someone above him changed direction, and nobody in his organization has ever explained the concept of trade-offs to him in a language he could hear. Zane is entirely fixable. Nobody has fixed him yet. Fiona, new team member, human barometer. Fiona joined 3 weeks ago. She came from a waterfall shop where people were polite to the point of dishonesty, and everything terrible was communicated through passive voice and vague email chains. She is bright, capable, and currently processing what she has walked into at a pace that resembles a person reading a document while the building quietly catches fire around them. Barry, VP of Engineering, professional obstacle. Barry has a PMP. Barry has opinions about Agile, which he expresses as facts. Barry once described the Daily Scrum as therapy for people who can't manage their own time. He tells the CEO he supports the Agile transformation. He then walks directly to Vlad's desk. Barry and Dina have a relationship that could best be described as two tectonic plates with very different plans for the landscape. The CEO, sponsor, true believer, perpetually elsewhere. The CEO read a book on Agile during a flight. She was genuinely moved. She approved the transformation, funded the training, and sent an all-hands email with 3 exclamation points. She cannot attend every Daily Scrum, and she is dimly aware that something is not right, but she is also running a company and she trusts the system. Phil, Agile coach, arriving later than ideal. Phil does not arrive until Chapter 1 is already a mess. He does not come as a superhero. He comes as a trainer, a mirror, and a person who has seen every single one of these dysfunctions before and has developed, over many years of professional exposure, a very particular expression that conveys both empathy and the certain knowledge of what is about to happen. The bully backlog, or how Brett became the most hated person in every sprint planning session. Power is seductive. Accountability is inconvenient. In Agile, one is yours. The other is also yours, but people keep forgetting that part. Monday, 8:47 a.m. The EM Solutions. Sprint planning room. The room smelled of burnt coffee and unresolved tension. Both had been there since approximately the last sprint. The whiteboard had not been erased from Friday's retrospective. On it, in capital letters that someone had underlined 3 times with increasing frustration, were the words, "Why are we still having this conversation?" Nobody had answered. Nobody had erased the question either, which told you something about the team's relationship with uncomfortable truths. Fiona arrived first, as she always did, because she was new enough to believe that punctuality was still rewarded. She chose a seat in the middle of the table, not too close to the front, which felt aggressive, not too far back, which felt suspicious. She opened her notebook, uncapped her pen, and waited. The Elmo doll sat at the head of the table. Fiona looked at it. It looked back. She decided not to ask. Shri came in at exactly 8:55 and arranged her notebooks, tablet, and 3-color pen system with the precision of someone preparing for a military briefing. She had printed an agenda. She placed copies at each chair. Fiona picked hers up and read, "Sprint Planning, EM Solutions, Sprint 14, Agenda V2.3. This was not, Fiona noted, the first version of the agenda for a meeting that had not yet started. Henry arrived 2 minutes later, carrying a plate of croissants that he set down at his end of the table, which he occupied as though it were a peninsula that had recently declared independence. He took 1 croissant, then a second, then appeared to consider a third before deciding against it on what looked like purely tactical grounds. Dominic came in talking. He had started a sentence somewhere in the corridor and completed it at the table without breaking stride. Dominic, which is why I think the issue fundamentally traces back to the architecture decision we made in Q3 of last year, and I know some people have opinions about that, but if you look at what we documented in October, and I have the notes, I can share the notes. Nobody responded. This was not unusual. Dominic had an extraordinary ability to speak into a silence and emerge from it still speaking, as though silence were simply a temporary load screen between his thoughts. Vlad arrived with his laptop under his arm and what appeared to be a minor emergency in his eyes. Vlad, has anyone checked the staging environment this morning? Henry, no. Vlad, interesting. I'm not saying it's on fire. Shri, is it on fire? Vlad, define on fire. Shri, Vlad, it's fine. Probably. I'll monitor it. Paula came in with a second chair, which she placed next to her regular chair, apparently on the off chance that someone would want to sit close enough to pair with her during the planning session. No one had ever taken the second chair. It remained optimistic. Julia came in last, already typing, already mid-thought, already generating output. Julia, I was thinking, since we're all going to be together for 2 hours anyway, could we fold the backlog refinement into the back half of this session? The table went quiet in the particular way a room goes quiet when everyone has heard this before and has individually decided not to be the one to say something. Then Brett walked in. Brett was a man who had clearly spent some time thinking about his own authority and had reached conclusions that most organizational psychologists would describe as problematic.